Imagine walking into a bank, your bank, only to be met with doubt, disrespect, and outright discrimination. You're here to conduct official business, but instead of a warm welcome, you're treated like you don't belong. Why? Because they assume you're just another customer who doesn't fit their high-tier profile. But what they don't know, you own the place. That's exactly what happened to Monica Williams, a successful entrepreneur who went to visit the very bank she had worked hard to acquire. The employees dismissed her, the manager looked down on her, and they were moments away from making a huge mistake. But when the truth came out, their entire world flipped upside down. Stay tuned, because karma is about to serve them a lesson they'll never forget. Welcome to Mr. Robert's Story, where we bring you real-life stories that shock, inspire, and teach valuable lessons. Today's story is about Monica Williams, a self-made entrepreneur who built her success from the ground up. After years of hard work, she finally acquired a bank, a major milestone in her career. But when she walked into her own bank for a routine visit, the staff didn't recognize her, and what happened next was nothing short of jaw-dropping. She was dismissed, disrespected, and denied service by the very people who worked for her. But here's the best part. When they finally realized their mistake, it was already too late. Stick around, because this is one story you don't want to miss. Monica Williams was no stranger to hard work. She grew up in a modest neighborhood where opportunities were scarce, but her determination was limitless. From a young age, she understood that financial independence was the key to breaking the cycle of struggle that so many in her community faced. She had big dreams, and unlike many who let those dreams fade over time, Monica turned hers into reality through sheer persistence. Her journey began in college, where she studied finance and business administration. She wasn't just another student attending classes and hoping for a good job after graduation. Monica was always thinking ahead, finding ways to apply what she learned in real-life situations. She worked multiple part-time jobs to support herself, from waitressing at a local diner to managing bookkeeping for small businesses. Every dollar she earned went toward either her tuition or a small savings fund she had started for her future business. By the time she graduated, Monica had already built a solid foundation of business knowledge and real-world experience. But she knew that having a degree wasn't enough. She needed to take risks if she wanted to build something of her own. With her savings and a small business loan, she launched her first online retail store, specializing in unique, high-quality products that weren't easily available in local markets. Unlike many new businesses that struggle to gain traction, Monica's store took off quickly because she focused on customer service, quality, and innovation. She didn't just sell products, she created an experience. She interacted personally with customers, took their feedback seriously, and made constant improvements. Within 2 years, her small online business expanded into multiple product lines, and she was earning 6 figures annually. Monica reinvested every dollar back into her business, growing it from a small home-based operation into a full-scale company with employees, warehouses, and international shipping. But she wasn't satisfied with just running an e-commerce business. She had bigger aspirations. She wanted to change the financial landscape for small business owners like herself. She realized how difficult it was for entrepreneurs, especially minorities and women, to access financial support. Traditional banks often denied them loans, claiming they were too risky. Monica had faced this firsthand when she was initially trying to expand her business. She had applied for a business loan at multiple banks and was rejected each time, despite having excellent credit and a profitable company. That experience fueled her next move. Instead of complaining about the system, Monica decided to become the system. She set her sights on acquiring a local bank. It wasn't a massive corporation, but it was a well-established institution that had been struggling due to outdated policies and poor management. Monica saw potential where others saw failure. She knew that with the right leadership, innovation, and focus on inclusivity, she could turn this struggling bank into a financial powerhouse that actually served its community. Acquiring the bank wasn't easy. As a black woman in a male-dominated industry, she faced skepticism at every turn. Investors questioned whether she had the experience to run a bank. Competitors dismissed her as an outsider who wouldn't last. Even some of the bank's existing employees doubted her ability to lead. But Monica had spent her life proving people wrong, and this was no different. After months of negotiations, she successfully purchased the bank and became its sole owner. She immediately implemented changes, updating technology, restructuring departments, and creating financial programs tailored to support small businesses and underrepresented entrepreneurs. Within just a few years, the bank went from struggling to thriving, gaining new clients, expanding its reach, and becoming a model for other institutions to follow. Monica had built a financial empire. She had achieved what many only dreamed of. But despite all her success, there was still one problem: the perception of who belongs in positions of power. She had worked tirelessly to create a bank that treated people with respect, regardless of background. Yet, on an ordinary day when she decided to visit one of her branches, she experienced firsthand the kind of discrimination she had fought so hard to eliminate. The people working under her didn't recognize her. They saw a black woman dressed casually and immediately assumed she wasn't someone of importance. They dismissed her without a second thought, making it clear that their judgments were based on appearance, not facts. What they didn't realize was that the very woman they had ignored and disrespected held their futures in her hands. And soon, they would come to regret it. Monica Williams had built an empire, but she never lost touch with the businesses she owned. She believed in leading by example, regularly visiting her companies to ensure they operated smoothly. One afternoon, she decided to stop by one of her bank branches unannounced. She wanted to see how things were running from a customer's perspective, without the formalities that usually accompanied her visits as the owner. She walked into the bank dressed casually in jeans and a simple blazer, without any assistants or staff announcing her arrival. She wasn't there for special treatment. She wanted to observe how customers were being served. As she stepped inside, she took in the surroundings. The employees were busy handling transactions, the security guard gave her a brief glance, and customers waited in line. Monica approached the reception desk, where a young woman was typing away on a computer. She stood there for a moment, waiting to be acknowledged, but the receptionist didn't look up. Monica cleared her throat politely and said, "Excuse me, I need to speak with the branch manager." The receptionist finally glanced at her, giving her a quick up-and-down look. Without a greeting, she responded, "Do you have an appointment?" Monica smiled, keeping her calm. "No, but I believe this is important. Can you let the manager know I'm here?" The receptionist sighed, clearly unimpressed. She picked up the phone and made a call, speaking in a low voice. After a moment, she hung up and said, "He'll be out shortly." Monica stepped back and waited patiently. As she did, she noticed how other customers were being treated. A well-dressed man had walked in and was immediately greeted with enthusiasm. The contrast was obvious. Some customers were met with warmth, while others, particularly those who didn't fit the bank's expected profile, were barely acknowledged. After a few minutes, the branch manager appeared. He was a middle-aged man with an air of authority, dressed in a sharp suit. He walked straight up to Monica and, without a proper greeting, asked, "Can I help you with something?" His tone was clipped, businesslike, but not welcoming. Monica kept her composure. "Yes, I'd like to discuss some accounts and policies at this branch." The manager barely concealed his impatience. "If you're looking for personal loans, you'll need to apply online or schedule an appointment. We don't handle small transactions like that in person." Monica raised an eyebrow, but she remained calm. "I didn't say anything about a loan. I need to review the branch's operational procedures." The manager's expression shifted slightly, as if he was now mildly intrigued. But his demeanor was still dismissive. "And what exactly is your business here?" Monica could tell he had already made assumptions about her. He wasn't interested in her concerns. He had already decided she wasn't an important client. She had seen this behavior before, in other businesses, in other industries. People who judged others based on surface-level observations. She decided to press a little further. "Do you treat all your customers like this?" she asked, tilting her head slightly. The manager frowned. "Excuse me? The way you just assumed I was here for a small loan. The way the receptionist barely looked at me. Is this how you handle all your walk-ins?" The manager straightened, now slightly defensive. "We have protocols to follow, ma'am. If you don't have an appointment, there's only so much we can do." Monica took a deep breath, realizing just how deep the problem ran. The issue wasn't just about her, it was about the bank's culture. The very business she had worked so hard to build still had employees who judged people unfairly, despite the policies she had put in place to prevent this. She reached into her bag, pulled out a business card, and placed it on the desk in front of the manager. He glanced at it casually, then did a double take. His eyes widened as he read the name. Monica Williams, owner. The color drained from his face. He looked back up at her, suddenly realizing his mistake. His previously confident posture shifted as he scrambled for words. Monica didn't say anything. She simply watched as the reality of the situation sank in. The manager had treated the owner of the bank as if she were an outsider who didn't belong. The receptionist, who had ignored her earlier, now looked nervous. The entire mood in the room shifted, and Monica was about to teach them a lesson they wouldn't forget. The bank manager's face paled as he read the name on the business card again, his hands trembling slightly. His confident, dismissive attitude had vanished. He glanced back up at Monica, now realizing who he had just brushed off. The receptionist, who had barely acknowledged her earlier, was now staring at her wide-eyed, as if hoping she would disappear before she could say anything more. Monica remained silent for a moment, letting the weight of the situation settle in. She could see the panic in the manager's eyes, the way he shifted uncomfortably, trying to come up with a way to recover from the massive mistake he had just made. But there was no undoing what had already happened. The manager cleared his throat, his tone suddenly softer, more respectful. Ms. Williams, I apologize. I didn't realize. We weren't expecting you today. Monica raised an eyebrow. Would that have changed the way you treated me? The manager hesitated, struggling to find an answer that wouldn't make things worse. Of course not, ma'am. It's just that we have procedures in place, and I was just trying to— Monica cut him off, her voice calm but firm. You assumed I was here for a small personal loan, without even listening to what I had to say. You dismissed me before you even knew who I was. And that tells me everything I need to know about how customers are being treated in this branch. The receptionist lowered her gaze, avoiding Monica's eyes. The tension in the air was thick. Employees at nearby desks had stopped what they were doing, sensing that something significant was happening. The manager tried to regain control of the situation. Ms. Williams, I assure you, this is not how we typically handle customers. It was just a misunderstanding. Monica let out a small, knowing smile. A misunderstanding? Tell me, how often do you assume that a black woman walking into this bank is asking for a loan instead of being here on business? How many clients have you dismissed simply because they don't fit the image of who you think is important? The manager had no answer. He knew that anything he said now would only make things worse. Monica leaned in slightly. I built this bank to be different, to be a place where people are treated with dignity, no matter who they are or what they look like. But clearly, that message hasn't reached everyone. The room was completely silent. Everyone was watching, listening, waiting to see what would happen next. The manager swallowed hard. I take full responsibility, Ms. Williams. It was a mistake, and I sincerely apologize. Monica studied him for a moment before responding. I'm not here for an apology. I'm here to make sure this never happens again. Because if it happened to me, I can only imagine how many others have walked into this bank and been treated the same way, without the power to call it out. The weight of her words sank in. The employees around the bank shifted uncomfortably, realizing that they were all now under scrutiny. The receptionist finally spoke up, her voice small. Ms. Williams, I'm really sorry. I didn't mean to be rude. Monica turned her gaze to her. Didn't you? You ignored me when I first walked in. You barely looked at me when I asked for the manager. What made you think I wasn't worth your time? The receptionist had no answer. She fidgeted with her hands, realizing that her actions had spoken louder than any words ever could. Monica straightened, her voice steady and strong. This is not just about me. This is about respect. Every single person who walks through these doors deserves to be treated with the same level of professionalism, whether they're depositing $100 or $100,000. The employees stood frozen, understanding that the culture of the bank was about to change. The manager cleared his throat again. Ms. Williams, I assure you, we will make immediate changes. This is unacceptable, and I will personally see to it that— Monica held up a hand, stopping him mid-sentence. You won't have to. Because I will be making the changes myself. The manager's face fell. He knew what that meant. His job, his position, everything he had taken for granted, was now on the line. Monica looked around at the employees in the room. Starting today, this bank is implementing mandatory customer service and bias training. Every single employee will be retrained on how to treat people with respect. And that includes you, Mr. Reynolds. The manager nodded stiffly, knowing he had no other choice but to comply. Monica took a deep breath, letting the moment settle. She hadn't come here to expose anyone, but the truth had revealed itself. This wasn't just about one experience. It was about changing an entire mindset. And from this moment forward, things at this bank would never be the same. Monica Williams had just made it clear. Things were going to change. The silence in the room was deafening as every employee, including the branch manager, processed what had just happened. The weight of their assumptions, their biases, their everyday interactions that seemed so small, had just been exposed in the most powerful way possible. The manager, Mr. Reynolds, finally found his voice again. Ms. Williams, I truly understand the gravity of this situation. I assure you, this will never happen again. Monica tilted her head slightly. It shouldn't have happened in the first place. Her words cut deep. Mr. Reynolds, along with the receptionist and other staff members who had been eavesdropping, knew that no excuse would justify the way she had been treated. They had unknowingly dismissed and disrespected the owner of the very institution that paid their salaries. And the real question now was, how many other customers had they treated this way? Monica took a deep breath before continuing. This isn't just about my experience today. It's about the countless customers who walk into this bank expecting fair treatment and instead get judged before they even open their mouths. The manager nodded stiffly. We'll do better, I promise. Monica let out a small, almost amused smile. Promises mean nothing without action. The entire staff was now listening intently. This was no longer just about an apology. It was about accountability. And Monica was not the kind of woman to let things slide. She turned to the receptionist. Tell me, how long have you worked here? The young woman shifted nervously. About 2 years. Monica crossed her arms. And in those 2 years, how many times have you dismissed a customer just because they didn't look important? The receptionist opened her mouth to respond, but no words came out, because she knew the answer wouldn't be in her favor. Monica didn't need her to say anything. The hesitation was enough. That's exactly the problem, she said. Customers are being judged before they even get a chance to speak. And that ends today. She then turned back to Mr. Reynolds. From now on, this branch, and every branch under my ownership, will undergo mandatory customer service and bias training. Every employee will be required to complete it. And if I hear another complaint about someone being disrespected, you won't just be dealing with me in a surprise visit. You'll be dealing with a termination letter. The seriousness in her tone made it clear she wasn't bluffing. Mr. Reynolds nodded quickly. Understood, Ms. Williams. Monica wasn't done. She reached into her bag and pulled out a document. And that's not all. Effective immediately, I am implementing a new policy. One that ensures all customers, no matter their background, are treated with equal respect. I will personally be reviewing customer service reports, and if I see a pattern of bias or complaints at any branch, changes will be made. Mr. Reynolds swallowed hard, nodding again. That's a good initiative, Ms. Williams. I fully support it. Monica gave him a look that said she wasn't seeking his approval. You don't have a choice. She then turned to the other employees who had gathered around, witnessing the entire confrontation. This isn't just about saving your jobs or making the bank look good. It's about doing what's right. If you don't respect the people who walk through these doors, you don't belong here. A few employees nodded, while others looked down, avoiding her gaze. The reality was sinking in. This wasn't just a lecture. Monica Williams was setting a new standard, and there was no going back. The tension in the room slowly began to fade as the message settled in. Monica wasn't there to humiliate anyone. She was there to open their eyes. And for the first time, the employees saw the bank, their customers, and their own roles in a different light. Before leaving, Monica turned back to Mr. Reynolds one last time. I will be checking in, and next time, I won't be coming unannounced. I'll expect results. With that, She turned on her heel and walked out of the bank, leaving behind a room full of employees who had just learned the most valuable lesson of their careers. The woman they had dismissed as unimportant had just redefined their entire workplace. And from this day forward, the way they treated customers and each other would never be the same again. Monica Williams had built her bank with a vision to create a financial institution that treated all customers with fairness, dignity, and respect. But her unexpected visit revealed a harsh reality. Even in her own establishment, bias and discrimination still existed. The people she trusted to uphold her values had failed, and in doing so, they had exposed a much larger issue. Her encounter at the bank wasn't just about her being disrespected. It was about the way society often judges people based on appearances. It was about the countless customers before her who had walked into that branch and experienced the same dismissive attitude, but without the power to change it. Monica refused to let that continue. By taking immediate action, she didn't just teach her employees a lesson, they felt it. The receptionist who had ignored her, the manager who had assumed she was unimportant, and the staff who had witnessed it all, they would now think twice before judging a customer by their looks. They had seen firsthand how wrong their assumptions could be. But the real lesson wasn't just for them. It was for all of us. It was a reminder that respect shouldn't be based on someone's clothing, race, or social status. That the person you dismiss today might be the one who holds your future in their hands tomorrow. Monica walked away from that bank knowing one thing for certain: change had begun. And while she couldn't erase every bias in the world overnight, she had made sure that, at least in her bank, every customer would now be seen and heard. What do you think about this story? Have you ever experienced or witnessed something similar? Let's talk about it in the comments. And if you enjoyed this video, make sure to like, share, and subscribe to the channel for more eye-opening stories. See you in the next one.